Welcome back to Hytale Lore, you guys. Alterverse. We're back in our Hytale Lore World 2.0. If you did not know, the Alterverse is basically this plan where Orbis, the world that we're currently in, or the world we're in a fragmented version of currently, is one of many planned worlds within the game that will eventually become explorable. Let me actually just like throw up a picture of it here. Hang on a second. There we go. This is the Alterverse. Wait, this side? This is the Alterverse. We have Orbis, which we're already familiar with, and if you look very closely, obviously you can see the 4 zones that we currently have accessible through Orbis, and then we have these 4 other planets that will eventually be explorable. And if I'm understanding right, they have the potential to have their own zones, their own creatures, their own factions, their own like deities and interplay as well, which I'm very, very excited about. So within the game, we actually have these prefabs, these structures that are referred to as gates. We have a couple different kinds. These ones right here are labeled story gates. So presumably these simply go to some sort of dungeon. I remember some like key art of this from ages ago. Don't know if these are still planned to be used in the game or if these are kind of like holdover prefabs while they're designing more. Oh, we do have the work in progress sign here, so maybe these will hit. And then of course we have the Outlander one here as well. Presumably these would go to some sort of dungeon. However, these 6 over here, these are called world gates. And it looks like there's at least one of them for all of the 4 zones that are currently explorable in the game. World Gate does definitely give the impression that you would be able to access a different world through here. And they have that kind of signature floating rock aesthetic that the Forgotten Temple does as well. Obviously, these are not currently in the game. They're not currently discoverable in the game, but they do exist in the prefabs list. Wouldn't be surprised if these are also holdover assets, holdover prefabs from a while ago. The only thing that somewhat makes me question it are these work in progress signs. Don't know how long they've been in the game. I had the impression that they were kind of a recent addition, though maybe they were also tacked onto old prefabs. But regardless, these look like opportunities to access other worlds, of which we have 5. Right now, we're currently not in the real Orbis, from what I've understood, from what the devs have said. This is kind of a fractured version because Gaia's in some sort of like comatose situation imposed by the big bad, Varen. Eventually, when the full release comes out, when we're out of early access, it seems like we'll be hitting the real Orbis. The actual world instead of this kind of like fragmented version of it, and of course that will come with the new world generation. Hopefully by that point a lot of new mechanics to explore as well. But then the question remains, what will we encounter when we hit these other worlds that are outside of Orbis? So I want to bring back our picture here. There are some things that we do know about these places. Nexus is the easiest one, by far. Nexus is pretty easy to figure out. Actually, let me immediately get rid of the picture again. We have a reference to it in the game files already. We have a sword that is a Nexus sword. It's very, very Varen colored. This is clearly a sword that some sort of void creature would be bearing. I mean, it looks just like the same stuff that like the void spawn carry, you know, those big like swords and things that they heft around. So seems pretty clear from what we've seen in the game so far that Varen and his people, all of these void people, the corrupted creatures and everything, come from Nexus. It's also worth pointing out that in the element concept art, the one that has all the different elements of Orbis with the void in the center, void is in the center. Nexus, if you don't know, is a Latin term for basically the connection, the thing that connects everything. So the center. which is obviously paralleled inside of that concept art. So it seems then that Varen and his void creatures, also we see this in the concept art, are kind of poised within the center of everything and potentially have access to multiple places as well. I don't know if these little strands that we get, those little wiggly bits between the planets, are like the sole way they're intended to connect, or if that's just aesthetic, purely aesthetic. I don't know. Also, going off on a little bit of a tangent here, I would love for there to be different ways to interact with the worlds, to reach the worlds, other than just gates like this. Like, I think it would be really cool for, I don't know, maybe there is, like, you access Nexus through a gate like this or something. Or then maybe you get to Tor Balin by, like, you go deep within the world and you can find, like, an entry point there into, like, cave system within Tor Balin and then rise up into the surface on that planet instead. Just some, like, interesting variants that might, like, narratively connect to the purpose of that place. Speaking of which, let's talk about the purpose of these places. So obviously we know Orbis well. That's Gaia's home. It seems like Gaia is the avatar of Orbis, and Varen is the avatar of Nexus, just like we're our avatars of our own worlds when we load up the game as well. However, there's been a lot of people who, because of the aesthetic of Numedrasil there, believe that Gaia is going to be from there instead, and that Orbis will kind of be our world where Gaia is being worshipped. Don't know how that will play out. Because it seems like Gaia is very firmly part of the world of Orbis and the creatures of Orbis. But nonetheless, Numedrasil and the aesthetic that we get there looks very, very much like the Forgotten Temple. We have those white pillars with the bridges connecting them. We have those like little swirly things, kind of like the like line-like designs that go through the sky in the Forgotten Temple. It feels very, very Gaia coded. The other interesting thing to note is that Orbis and Nexus, these are Latin words. They literally just mean like planet and connection, right? And a lot of what we get is inspired by the people who would have like come from Latin languages, right? Latin root. So like the Greeks and the Romans, we have a lot of inspiration from their mythology within the game. We have the Cyclops and we have the Bramblekins that are fauns and we have the tree spirits and all of that sort of thing. When we go to other places like Numedrasil, what I would love to see is the opportunity to explore other mythologies outside of this Greco-Roman sort of situation that they have going on so far. Numedrasil is very, very similar in name to Yggdrasil, which is the world tree in Norse mythology. I think it would be fantastic if, when we get the chance to go to Numedrasil, we can experience creatures from Norse mythology. Maybe there's some sort of like warrior spirits inspired by the Valkyries, or I don't know, like talking crows, or something inspired by Fenrir, like some scary like wolf boss that you would be able to fight. Something like that, where it like leans into other mythologies that we get to explore. I think that would be absolutely brilliant. So, Numedrasil does seem like it's going to be the world where Gaia might be from. Potentially. We'll see what they do with it, but at least aesthetically, with what we've seen so far, it looks like that would probably click pretty well. The interesting thing there for me is that right now, Gaia is asleep or imprisoned or something. And there seems to be this effect, this fragmented effect on Orbis, right? We're able to access fragments of the real Orbis. We're not really able to access all of it. It's kind of like breaking down. It's deteriorating without her presence. There's this concept in Norse mythology, which is that Yggdrasil, again, very similar to Numedrasil in name, the health of Yggdrasil relates to the health of the entire cosmos. So when I say Yggdrasil is the world tree, I mean like it connects like all the different realms that were believed in Norse mythology. And so when the tree was unhealthy, everything else was unhealthy, and everything else was kind of falling apart a little bit. And that's an interesting parallel in that Gaia is not okay right now. Gaia is not healthy, and things are falling apart a little bit. There's these void invasions. There's this fragmented world. There's a lot of problems going on, which I'm sure they're going to explore more and more as the chapters begin to release in the game. But I wonder if that's coincidence, or if that is like them beginning to already lean into that mythos and how it functions. Which then, of course, leaves the final two planets down here at the very bottom, Tor Balin and Karpak. We talked about Karpak briefly before, as far as I recall. We had been like, oh, what if it's the land of the Scarix? Because what if they're aliens? Because I know that they were like, when Riot took over, they were updated to look more alien. That was kind of the aesthetic direction that they were going. We've been told since then the Scarix are not aliens, they're native to Orbis, and so Karpak cannot be their home. I know that somebody in my Discord, by the way, link down below if you're watching this on YouTube, had brought up the idea of Karpak being this big mushroom world because there's concept art that was released for the game ages ago that includes this kind of like yellowy landscape with big mushroom trees in it that totally looks like it could be inspired by Karpak, right? That kind of like yellowy, it does look a little fungal. It does look a little fungal, which would be a really cool idea. But also we know that there's, let me back up a little bit. If you look into the game files in terms of things that belong to Zone 6 and Zone 5, even though they're not zones that exist in the world, there's already a bunch of assets for them. There's ones that apply to what they call the Mushroom Forest. And it seems like inside of Zone 5, there at least was a plan to create a Mushroom Forest. Hopefully still is, because that would be awesome. Like Sky Islands, Mushroom Forest, that'd be incredible. But I do wonder if that concept art doesn't belong to that instead of Karpak. I really do not know. And quite honestly, your guess is as good as mine. Torbalin, however, we can pull a little bit more from. Tor and Balin are real words in, I believe, Middle English. I may have to go fact check myself on that. But they are English words. Tor meaning kind of like a craggy rock, and Balin meaning like fortitude. So together, something that roughly translates into strong rock. And it does look like a very rocky, very fiery landscape that we get there represented in that Tor Balin artwork. Would not be surprised if this is a very volcanic landscape. Which does bring me to the theory that somebody else posed, in which they said that perhaps all these different planets also have like a primary element of their own, right? So Nexus is the void, maybe Torbalin is fire, maybe Karpak is air or wind. I personally think that it's probably more believable that each of these planets has their own range of important elements and influences, factions, deities, avatars, all that sort of stuff, independent of the other worlds. Maybe connected a bit, but independent still. Though I wouldn't be surprised if Torbalin leans into it. What I personally would find a little more believable is, you know how in Orbis we've got all these different gems that serve as hearts for the golems. Given that Torbalin seems to have this kind of like fiery, rocky aesthetic so far, that could be a really interesting thing to lean into. Maybe that's a magic or a science that stemmed from Torbalin instead. And maybe the golems and the way that they work, or the way that people learned how to make them, stemmed from that planet. That would be a really, really cool concept to bring in. You could like continue that into this overlapping experience between these different worlds too. Like if Karpak is a mushroom land, maybe the mushies came from there and wandered on over to Orbis one day, and now some of them live over there as well, but there's even more of them on Karpak, or more types of them. It would be a really, really awesome way to encourage the player to both explore and begin to tip them off about what they might find in different places. Obviously, we still have yet to receive the full 2.0 version of Orbis. All we have are a couple fragments right now. These other planets are a long, long way off still. But I'm very excited to see what the game cooks up with them, what the team cooks up with them, and how we get to navigate between all of them as well. Oh, that was what I was going to say. The last thing that I thought could be really interesting, I know other people in the community have already brought this up as well. It's not an idea original to me, but in Orbis, we very much do like the classic high fantasy style, right? We have the magic, and we have all the different like big factions, and like, you know, the ruined empires that came before, all these big like high fantasy tropes, right? It could be really interesting to use some of these other planets to explore other genres and other archetypes. You make part of Karpak like a steampunk area and use some of the like metal blocks that they've pulled into the game recently. or make, I don't know, part of Nexus or Torbalin like futuristic instead. It could be really, really cool to play with those different things. Or maybe you go to some other place, like, I don't know, maybe you go to Numedrasil and you're like going backwards into the Bronze Age. And so all of those like more futuristic elements that we get inside of Orbis, like the muskets and the boom powder, just don't exist anymore, and we just have like primitive weapons. There could be really, really interesting ways to play with like different points in like a civilization's progression when you're visiting different planets, or even just different regions of these planets. That is what we got in terms of what we know about the let me go back over here to the story gates, the world gates, about what we know about the Alterverses so far. But as always, I love hearing everyone's theories. So if you guys have ideas, if you have thoughts about where all of this could be going, if you're watching this on YouTube, drop it down into the comments. And if you are watching this on YouTube, we stream this live on Twitch, on twitch.tv. /Bradley is streaming on Tuesdays at 11 a.m. PST. Also, if you have any ideas about what we should cover next, what we should talk about next, also drop that in the comments. And if you're watching this on YouTube, a poll is now live to go and vote for what you would like us to chat about next week. Oh, also, just submitted for Hytale Modding's World Gen competition for the Raptor Hollows. So that's up on Twitter, and I believe in the Discord as well. Actually, I maybe have to post a link in the Discord, but it will be up. Also, over the weekend, hopped onto mine's SMP. There is the VOD up of that here on Twitch as well, if you would like to experience that. Might put it up here on the YouTube channel. If anybody wants that, or like a chopped down version of it, let me know here in the Discord. But in the meantime, happy hightailing, and I will see you guys later. Bye.